The first time Terry saw Catherine, she was standing in the rain. Not running, not screaming about her hair like every other person on that path, not holding her bag over her head like the sky had declared war on her personally. Just walking slowly, deliberately, like the rain had asked her permission first, and she had decided, fine, you may proceed. Terry was standing under the overhang watching her, and something happened in his chest that he had no name for yet. She walked past him, glanced at him once, looked away. He stood there long after she was gone, still looking at the space she had just occupied. Soji appeared beside him from nowhere. "You are staring at air." "I know," Terry said. Now, Terry Adeyemi was not a bad person. I need you to understand this before anything else. He was a broken one. Son of Chief Emeka Adeyemi. Oil money, real estate money, the kind of wealth that does not follow a person around but arrives first and rearranges the furniture. By the time Terry was 15, he had heard the word useless enough times from his father that he had simply decided, fine, useless. Watch how expensive useless can be. 2 universities had sent him home, not suspended, expelled, with paperwork. What nobody had ever figured out, not his father, not his lecturers, not the institutions that processed his exits, was that Terry had dyslexia. When this man looked at a page, the letters moved, rearranged themselves, laughed at him. He had spent his whole life feeling stupid and broken, and he had built a tower of arrogance around that feeling so nobody would ever look too closely at what was underneath. He was not lazy. He was afraid, and afraid people, when given enough money and no accountability, become very creative about how they hide it. That was Terry Adeyemi and the Rain Girl. Her name was Catherine Obi, postgraduate student, psychology department, partial scholarship, carried a notebook everywhere, did not take nonsense from any human being, alive or deceased. These 2 people were about to become each other's biggest problem. They met properly 3 days later in the faculty common room. Terry walked in, dropped into a chair like he owned it, and put his legs on the table. Catherine looked up from her textbook, looked at his legs, looked at him. Moved them, 5 seconds. The room went quiet. Somebody slowly lowered their pen. Terry turned to look at her fully, this small, calm girl, looking back at him with the eyes of someone who had already decided how this ended and was simply waiting for him to catch up. "Do you know who my father is?" "I didn't ask about your father." 3 seconds. Terry removed his legs. He did not know why. She went back to her book. He sat there for a very long time trying to understand what had just happened to him. Soji from the corridor. "Bros, she counted down on you." Terry, "I noticed." Soji, "And you just moved your legs." "I noticed that too." Long silence. "She's interesting." Soji, "She's dangerous. Very different thing." Terry started appearing wherever Catherine was. Library on Monday, 2 tables away, no books in front of him. Study lounge on Wednesday, sitting 3 chairs down, pretending to read a textbook he was holding upside down. She noticed on the 3rd day. Walked past his table, stopped, looked at the upside-down book, looked at him. "Are you following me? This is a library. I'm allowed to be here. Your book is upside down. I learn better this way." She walked away without another word. Terry quietly turned the book right side up. The study group was Catherine's. She ran it every Thursday. 3rd floor, faculty building, for anyone struggling with psychology coursework. Terry walked in one Thursday, sat down, announced he was joining. He was not studying psychology. He was not even registered in that faculty. Catherine looked at him across the table. "Your business administration." Psychology is relevant to business, consumer behavior, decision-making. It's practically the same course. Is it? Practically identical. She looked at him the way you look at something you are not sure is a problem yet, but you want to be prepared. First noise, you leave. He was quiet for 2 full hours. Soji sitting outside the door eating groundnuts the whole time. 2 hours, Terry. In my entire life, I have never seen you quiet for 2 hours. This woman has done jazz on you. Terry, shut up, Soji. I'm just saying, 2 hours. After the group ended and everyone left, Catherine was stacking her notes. Terry was still sitting there. She did not look up. "You can go. I know." Silence. She looked up, and the thing on his face, it was not the Terry performance, not the swagger, not the charm. Something underneath all of it. Something real and a little frightened. "I'm not good at reading," he said quietly. "The words move on me. I thought being around someone who actually understands this, maybe..." He stopped. Catherine put her notes down. She gave him her full attention, the kind that makes a person feel like the only one in the room. "Has anyone ever assessed you for dyslexia?" she asked. "My people, in 23 years, 2 universities, a father who could buy anything on this continent, not one person had ever asked that question." Something moved across Terry's face, a door opening that had been stuck for a very long time. "No," he said. "Nobody ever asked." "Come back Thursday," Catherine said simply. "I'll find you some resources." He came back Thursday, and the Thursday after, and the one after that. Now, my people, this is where I must stop and tell you what was happening behind the scenes, because what is coming will break your heart, and you need to understand how it started. Chief Emeka Adeyemi had watched 2 universities send his son home. He had a fixer, a man with long ears and longer reach, who brought him a report. There was a girl, postgraduate, psychology, the only person on record who had made Terry Adeyemi sit quietly in a room for 2 hours and come back the following week. Chief Emeka dug further. He found Chioma, Catherine's younger sister. Brain surgery, 12 million naira. A window of 6 to 8 weeks before the doctors could no longer promise anything. A brilliant girl quietly drowning, trying to save the person she loved most. He called Catherine to a meeting off campus. She refused twice. 3rd meeting, he placed Chioma's medical report on the table between them. 6 to 8 weeks. After that, inoperable. 50 million naira. Sister surgery covered. Everything else free. In return, stay close to his son. Help him, guide him, help him become who he was always supposed to be. Catherine stared at that report for a very long time. Then she signed. She told herself she was already helping Terry anyway. The money just meant Chioma would live. That was what she told herself. What she did not account for, what no contract in the world had prepared her for, was Terry Adeyemi without his armor. Terry at midnight in the study room, finally cracking a concept he had been fighting for 2 weeks, looking up at her with a face so open and undefended that she had to look away. Nobody pays for that kind of feeling. Nobody invoices the particular ache of hoping someone is doing well. But she didn't know that yet. The study sessions continued, and the gap between them closed the way all real things close. Slowly, without announcement, in small moments that seem ordinary until later when you look back and realize each one was everything. He brought her food one evening, just left it on the table beside her notes without explanation. She looked at the food, looked at him. "I notice you don't eat when you're studying," he said, eyes on his own notes. Catherine looked at the food for a moment. Then she opened it and ate without a word. She left coffee on his side of the table the next week. No explanation. He wrapped his hand around the cup and looked up at her. She was already looking somewhere else. They were both pretending very hard. Soji to the friend group. "The coffee has started, it's over. Somebody is going to say something embarrassing very soon and I want front row seats." One evening, she was stressed. He could read it in her whole body. The pen held too tight, the page stared at without seeing. Terry closed his book. "Explain chapter 7 to me." "You understood chapter 7 2 weeks ago." "Explain it again." She looked at him. He looked back. She explained it, and by the end, her shoulders had come down from somewhere near her ears, and the pen was loose in her hand, and the tight line had left her jaw. Terry opened his book again and said nothing. Under the table, invisible to anyone, Catherine's hand was shaking slightly because nobody had ever done that for her before. Noticed without being told, helped without making it a thing. She was in serious trouble and she knew it. He told her on a Friday evening. Study room almost dark, one lamp burning, everyone else gone long ago. Catherine was organizing her notes. Terry was supposed to be leaving. He was not leaving. Catherine. She looked up. He was standing on the other side of the table, completely still, with a face she had never seen on him before. Something unguarded, something that had simply given up performing. I love you. I know everything that makes it complicated. I just needed you to know. The room held its breath. Catherine set her note down slowly, walked around the table, stopped in front of him, close enough for the lamplight to find her face. She reached up and placed her hand flat on his chest, right over his heartbeat, and looked up at him. I know, she said softly. He covered her hand. Neither of them moved, neither of them needed to. Outside the window, somewhere across campus, Soji was already typing. It happened. I have no proof, but I know it happened. He passed his exams. Results went up on a Wednesday morning, and Terry stood at that board and read his scores once, twice, a third time. Then he ran, straight to Catherine's hostel. Called her from outside at 6:30 in the morning. She picked up on the second ring, voice still thick with sleep. Terry, it is 6:30. I passed. Silence. Then a sound that was not quite a word, something between a breath and everything. She came downstairs in 2 minutes, night clothes, hair loose, no preparation. She walked straight into his arms and he held on tight, the way you hold something you almost convinced yourself you didn't deserve. And neither of them said anything for a long time because some things do not need words. That evening, he arrived at her door with 2 bottles of Fanta and the largest grin she had ever seen on a human face. She opened the door and he picked her up right there in the corridor, span her once, while she said, Terry put me down. But she was laughing, really laughing, and so was he, and the light was flickering and none of it mattered at all. He set her down, hands at her waist, her hands on his arms. I told you, she said, 40 times. I would have told you 400. Catherine. I'm going to kiss you now. Are you asking or announcing? Announcing, politely. That is not how announcing. Catherine. Okay, she said softly. He kissed her. 2 bottles of Fanta, forgotten on the floor. He found out on a Thursday. He went looking for her and she was not in the study room. Called, no answer. Went to her hostel. Roommate said she left an hour ago looking upset. Terry found her on the bench under the big mango tree outside the faculty building, the dark one where nobody usually sat. She heard him coming and looked up. Her face told him everything before she opened her mouth. Your father came to see me today, she said. Terry went very still. He came to say the arrangement was complete, that the money had served its purpose, that he was pleased. What arrangement? Terry said, very quiet. What money? Catherine looked at him and told him everything. He stepped back from her the way you step back from fire. She watched it land on him, watched his face do something she had never seen it do. Not the loud anger, not the performance, something much worse, something that looked like every fear he had ever had about himself arriving at the same time. The sessions, the coffee, all of it. Was I a job to you? Terry. His voice cracked once, then sealed. Please. He turned and walked away. She sat under the mango tree alone, and the night came in around her, and she did not move for a very long time. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of crossing each other on campus like polite strangers. 3 weeks of Terry looking fine on the outside and Soji watching him like a nurse watching someone pretending not to be in pain. 3 weeks of Catherine sitting in the study room alone, 2 chairs still pulled close together from a habit they had built without noticing. One evening, Terry was walking past and through the glass panel he saw her. Not reading, just sitting, hands flat on the table, staring at nothing. He stood at that door for a long time, then walked away, got 3 steps, stopped, turned back, opened the door. She looked up. Her face did the thing it always did when she saw him. That small, involuntary rearrangement, like her features had been quietly waiting. He sat down across from her. Neither spoke. Then, the chapter 7 evening, when I asked you to explain it again, even though I already understood it. He looked at her steadily. Was that real? Catherine's throat moved. I knew what you were doing, she said. Yes, that was the moment I knew I was in serious trouble. Not the contract kind, the real kind. Nobody had ever done something like that for me. Noticed without being told. Her voice was steady, her eyes were not. Terry looked at her for a long time. Then he reached across the table, turned his hand palm up and waited. Catherine looked at his open hand, looked at his face. She placed her hand in his. He closed his fingers around it. Outside in the corridor, Soji, who had been watching through the glass panel for 4 minutes with a full bag of groundnuts, turned to face the wall and said quietly to nobody, "Thank God, I was going to lose my mind." Thank you for watching. Bye.